Welcome to the, is this working? Hello?
Yeah,
It is? Okay, thanks. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Bearden. As you can see, my electronic prowess excels. Please silence any electronic devices other than the microphone. Cell phones and pagers, if you would, please. Haynes Smith has our song and pledge this morning.
Thank you. Let's sing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, light would foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Haynes. Steve Chansey's got our invocation.
Let us pray. The most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for the food and the fellowship we enjoyed today. We thank you also for the teachings that you provided in your word. You taught us goodness, and you taught us to care. Help us to live with these teachings in mind in our everyday lives, and certainly as we operate our Rotary Club and the service projects and other things that we do. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And Andy's going to introduce our guests and visitors. And he's right. It's here, Andy.
Okay, got Gene Russell as a guest.
and my wife Joanne.
Good guy. Rogers Penfield as a guest.
Hi, Paul. You read about Colonial Pipeline friend, Jason. Hope you will stop by and say hello to him. Alan Wright, where's Alan Wright? Okay, you need to see him.
Tom Doherty has it.
I'd like to introduce our best friends from Franklin, Tennessee, past Rotary President Jimmy French and Marcia. Both of them Paul Harris.
Leonard Knight as a guest.
I'd like to introduce Nathan Younger. Nathan, everybody's going to love Nathan because he's taking care of our technology and making sure that it works every Friday. He's also recording those videos for us and publishing them as podcasts. And the board has said that if you watch that video, it counts as a makeup. All you got to do is go watch the guest speaker. So Nathan Younger.
We have a visiting Rotarian, Patty Doherty from Farragut.
Thank you, Andy. I wasn't sure to introduce my wife, Patty Daughtry, or not, but since she's a visiting Rotarian, she's in a different category, I guess. So, not just a guest, but a visiting Rotarian. Dick, if you would please update us on Pond Gap School. You guys.
We were full of readers today. Gary Riccardi, Rosa Barr, myself, and Jim Katsianis was there. Next week we're full as well. I'll bring it next week to sign up for the week after. So we're doing well with sign-ups.
Sound fantastic. Thank you, Dick. And Janice, do you have enough? Is Janice? Yeah, there you go. Talk to her.
And we had 4 delivered meals today, so that was Carol, Walker, Jim, and Jean, Jim and Jean, I'm Jan. And, next week, Michael Hahn is going to deliver, and then I'll deliver after that. We're not sure about the Friday after Thanksgiving, I'll keep you apprised of that. And then December's list is already out there, so please sign up for December.
Okay, thank you, Janice. And Gary Riccardi would like to update us on our bell ringing this year for the Salvation Army. Oh.
It's that time of year again. I've gotten a good relationship with the Salvation Army, and we have locked in for the first Saturday of December every year at Dillard's at West Town, same location we've been at for several years. And what I have is the sign-up sheet. I'm going to start at this table. If we can go around the room this way and end up at the front table. If you sign up for the times, we're asking for any of our new members. What we do is we ask you to volunteer for 1 hour, and we ask for 2 volunteers per hour to volunteer on this, and it's a great way to get to know your fellow Rotarian while you're out there for an hour.
I didn't hear that.
Pardon me? December 5th. So to start on this
Thank you,
table.
Gary. Looks like the bells got smaller. That's probably to get more money or something.
Yes, you are. 366.
We've got a very special program today, and Clarence is going to introduce our guest speaker. If you would please, Clarence.
Got humor again.
No, I'm not here.
Do you mind if we get humor in? Ron Justice, I left the humor out last week, and here I did it again.
It wasn't a Freudian slip. Now, mine with Alan, but Ron Justice has our humor today, and I apologize for the second week in a row.
I'm awful big to get overlooked, but that's okay. All right, I've got a couple of things. One, a couple of South Carolina stories, nursing home stories, and then maybe a golfer story. But if you have a car containing a South Carolina Gamecock wide receiver, a linebacker, and a defensive back, who's driving the car? The cop, that's correct. Did you hear about the South Carolina Gamecock fan who tried to blow up the Tennessee team bus? You already heard this one? Okay. Burned his lip on the tailpipe. Okay, how do Gamecock brain cells die? Alone. Okay, a woman in a nursing home sits alone and wonders why nothing changes until she sees a new man across the way. She showers, combs her hair, and sprays perfume. Sits down next to the new man and says, "Are you new here?" He says, "Yes." She says, "Where have you been?" He says, "I've been in jail for 45 years for killing my wife." And she says, "So you're single." Okay. I was at a bar the other night and overheard 3 very hefty women talking at the bar, and their accent sounded Scottish, so I approached and said, "Are you 3 lassies from Scotland?" One of them looked at me angrily and said, "It's Wales, you bloody idiot." So I apologized and said, "I'm sorry, are you 3 whales from Scotland?" And that was the last thing I remember for several days. And lastly, real quickly, golfing. A recent study found the average golfer walks about 900 miles a year. Another study found on average golfers drink 22 gallons of alcohol a year. This means on average golfers get about 41 miles to the gallon. The person that told me that said he felt like a hybrid.
Thanks, Ron. Now, Clarence, I'm sorry, if you would please come up and introduce our special guest program today.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. How you guys doing today? Good to be here with you again this afternoon, and I'm definitely even more honored to have the distinct honor of introducing our guest speaker for today, Mr. Leroy Thompson. He's an Knoxville native. Some of you may have known him. I know a lot of people have greeted him already. A graduate of Austin East High School, went on to Penn State University, where he played under Coach Joe Patino there, and became an NFL star running back. Since that time, of course, working with Joe Paterno, leaving from there, going to the NFL, coming back, he accepted the call from Governor Bill Haslam to be appointed as a regional director at the Tennessee Economic and Community Development Department from the year of 2012 to 2014. During that tenure, he pretty much spearheaded 33 major corporate projects that resulted in more than $1 billion in new capital investments across East Tennessee. A lot of that he really pushed towards a lot of the information he learned from head coaches at NFL to put strategic alliance to what he does with corporate investments. Right now, Mr. Thompson is a business and community leader who is also founder and president and CEO of BDT Development and Management LLC. He has a lot to bring to us today. I'm definitely delighted to have him. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Leroy Thompson as our speaker for today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Clarence just needs to talk just a little slower, doesn't he? Thank you for that warm welcome. Clarence is a dear friend, and I'm excited about being here to share with you today. Thank you, Clarence, and the Rotary Club for inviting me to speak with you today. It's Casual Friday, so I'm not going to bore you with a long, drawn-out speech. I thought I'll talk about myself a little bit, some of the experiences that I've had, and then open it up to for your questions, because I've always found that the questions that I'm able to entertain and get back some real answers, whether it's about Joe Paterno or Bill Parcells or Tony Dungy or Marty Schottenheimer or Bill Cowher or the governor and what you've seen in politics or community or just anything that you have heard that you may have wanted to answer. And I've had some up close and personal run-ins with quite a few folks. I would love to be able to share some of that insight. So I'll make sure I leave some time for us to just have some fun and talk about some things that may be on your mind. As Clarence talked about, I am born and raised here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Went to Austin East High School, and 30 years in running, there's always a question that's in the room. I was already met with it when I walked in the door, and that question is what? Why did you go to the University of Tennessee? And I enjoy answering that. Some of you, if you've heard me speak before, you might already even know the story, but I always tell it. And I was 18 years old. It's real simple for me. It's real simple. There was a little bit of circle called the East Knoxville in the urban area in Burlington, and I hadn't been past Nashville, Tennessee was the furthest I've ever gone, and we went there to play our state championships every year. Basketball and football, I have to say that. And I have to say that now because I never lost to Maryville, never lost to Alcoa, never lost to Fulton, and now those are the dynasties right now in high school. So it's really, I get a big kick out of saying that everywhere I go. But at any rate, my recruiting trips was my chance to see the world. I mean, it literally was. I don't get these guys today signing as 11th graders and 10th graders and foregoing their opportunities to go take their recruiting trips, because my recruiting trips changed my life. This was my opportunity to go see different cultures, eat different foods. I never forget this story, and I always tell it. I was on the plane going to the University of Miami to see Jimmy Johnson, was the head coach at that particular time. First time on the plane, and I'm sitting next to this guy, and he has these, what's those patches over your eyes? Whatever those patches are called. And I'm poking him, and I didn't know that meant do not disturb. I'm poking this guy, and he's like, what? And I'm looking out the window here, and I'm like, what is that? And he looks out, and he said, that's the ocean. So sure story. So now, remember, I had only seen the ocean on TV. So when we got off the plane, I'm supposed to go over to meet Jimmy Johnson in the car. I said, where are you going? I said, take me to the ocean. So I'll never forget this. We went to the ocean. It's the first time I see people were jet skiing, they were sunbathing and fishing and swimming and doing all these things. I'll never forget this beautiful blue spectacle. And that was the day that I said, there's no way. What else in this world had I not seen? So I began to take trips to schools I know I wasn't going to. Hawaii, Southern California. I went all over the place. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm real interested in what are those things? Can I come over there and visit? So, but I never forgot. I met different cultures, ate different foods, different people, and that's when I made up my decision that I wanted to get away, grow as a man, gather all the experience and exposures. That's going to be my words for today. Experience and exposures that I possibly could, and bring that back home to my community. So once I was done with professional, playing in the professional leagues, you may have known, I came home every single year and wanted to take that experience and exposure and invest it back into the neighborhoods where I grew up, invest it back into my community, and until this day, I am still doing that. And that was why I did not go to the University of Tennessee. It's my second favorite. I grew up on the campus. I went to camp there. I swam there. I went basketball. I played everything. It's my second favorite team in the whole wide world right now, university. And I got a daughter now that's 21, and guess where she goes? University of Tennessee. So they finally got me anyway. So that's the story I like to tell. Exposures and experiences. I've had a tremendous amount of those. I played for some of the greatest coaches that have ever walked the planet. I mentioned them. My first coach was Chuck Nall, my rookie year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then he was replaced by Bill Parcells. By Bill Cowher. From Bill Cowher to Bill Parcells. From Bill Parcells to Marty Schottenheimer. From Marty Schottenheimer, I finished up with Tony Dungy. And it's ironic that Tony Dungy is one of my favorite coaches, and he's actually the coach that cut me when I retired. So, but that was a little weird for me. But I took and I can't leave out the great Joe Paterno. So I took a little bit, first eye glance view up front from how different coaches that are the greatest to ever walk the planet, the Hall of Famers, or soon to be Hall of Famers, and I got to watch them. I got to watch how they dealt with people. I got to watch how they managed the team, how they had different mind games. In the mind game, Paterno always played with me. I don't know if you see me play when I was in high school. We were bad, man. We had just a dynamite team. We were ranked in AA, but we finished up the season as a AA school, ranked against 6A schools across the country as number 13 in the nation. So we had 13 seniors from our football team, senior class, to go Division I. So my best friend is Joe Fishback. He went on to play for the Dallas Cowboys and the Falcons, and he won a Super Bowl. And my other running back, who nobody even knows, Joey Smith, ended up starting 4 years at the University of Louisville, playing with the New York Giants. Von Reeves was tight end for the University of Tennessee. My classmate, I can go on and on and on. We had a phenomenal class. But I used to get the ball. They would pitch it to me because Studebaker left, Studebaker right. And I would run outside, and I scored a lot of touchdowns on the outside. So when I got to Penn State, we were in a veer set, two backs, one on this side, one on that side. This was my first time playing in the I formation with a fullback in front of me. So I really didn't know how to run out of the I. And I would always get the ball, and I would get in trouble because I would get the ball and run straight to the outside. Studebaker left, Studebaker right. That was pent in my mind. And I would never forget, I was running one time, and Paterno stopped the whole practice. Hey, Leroy! Hey, stop faking phantoms! Turn it up! He was, that lives in my head. That's one of them. I'm sorry, I just lost it. We have to come back to that. We have to come back to it. Now, here's another story. We'll get off these sports stories in a minute. Pittsburgh Steelers. Running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was one of those guys, I was what they call a utility guy, third down back. But I was competing against the most valuable player in the league at running back the previous year, a guy named Barry Foster. And he was in front of me. And most of the games, Barry was going to get the carries. I'll come in, catch passes, return kicks, spot him, and we'd be competing. I would always be lifting and competing and ready just in case something happened. But I'll never forget now, on Monday nights, I don't know if any of y'all remember this, I was a Monday night phenomenal. Okay? But this time we were playing the Buffalo Bills, never forget it, Monday night. And I don't know if you remember. Dun, 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 dun. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party! It's Hank and Dan, and we'll be in the woo! Inside the tunnel, hear that coming on. You ready to go? Now, the reason I was so happy and excited because I knew I wasn't going to play. So you ever see the hype guys because they hype on the sideline. They know, then they get into play. They're shell shocked. But in the first play of this game, we're playing for first place. Terrible times going on, and I never forget this. First drive, Barry Foster went down, and the crowd went quiet. And if you know about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the running back is it. They're just going to carry the load. Ron Bettis, Le'Veon just went down. Okay, so the crowd is quiet. Barry's on the ground, and I'm going over, and I'm like, man, please get up. Please get up. And I'm thinking, in long story, he didn't get up. He didn't get up, and he took him in. And I promise, true story, guys, you can't make this kind of stuff up. All right, so we're out on the field, crowd's going crazy. It's Monday night. I remember, I didn't think I was playing that night. Now I'm flushed into being it, because you're starting, you're the guy. It's first quarter. Okay, we get out there, and all of a sudden I hear, timeout. Timeout, because I was lined up on the wrong side of the field. Okay. So I never get that. I promise you. I never promise. Now we get back into the huddle. Diamante Dawson, he's a Hall of Famer down the center. He took my helmet. Man, what's wrong with you? You are ready. You prepared for this moment. Calm down. Get yourself together. And all I could think about at that time is, man, I hope people are not watching at home seeing this guy shaking my helmet. This is embarrassing. Okay, so first play, 10 yards. Second pitch, got the ball, made a move on Bruce Smith. He's a buddy of mine now, so we play golf, and I always remind him of this play. I made a move, he broke down like that, went in for the touchdown, and then long story short, had 138 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. I was running over to the stands now. Yeah, now what? Yeah, let's go. Never forget that moment. Never forget that. Money. Greatest experience. All right. Okay. Now, oh man. Okay. The greatest experience I've ever had. True story. You know, like when you're doing what you do with the Rotary Club and you give, and I always came back and gave. And I came back initially when I first retired. I came back and I ran a inner city nonprofit you may be familiar with called the Wesley House Community Center. And I went over and I had a vision and went over to run this particular program, and came back and had a foundation called the Thompson Team Dream Foundation, where we gave inner city scholarships. We raised money for gang and drug affiliation and all of those things. None of which I had to deal with from a gang standpoint, those kind of things when I was growing up. I left home and came back and I was like, wow, where did this come from? So I wanted to have an impact, do something about it. But a lot of times, I say this for somebody out there that's maybe frustrated about giving and investing, and sometimes you can't see the fruit of your labor. And my greatest experience is that now, to this day, at 46 years old, and I left home about 18 and began to give throughout the pro career, is when I come back 15, 20 years later, and I run into one of those kids, and they say, you know what, Mr. Thompson, a long time ago I was a recipient of your Thompson Team Dream Scholarship, and I now am teaching at Beaumont, and without you and your team's investment, I would not have been able to make it back and make it through, and I just want to thank you 20, 30 years later. So the greatest experience that I have in life is young people or children or whatever impact off the field I've been able to make. Now a lot of folks come up now to me, they say, man, thank you for coming back. That's used to be, where'd you go? Why did you not go to UT? Now it's thank you for coming back, and oh, by the way, why did you go to UT? So I'm pretty proud that a lot of notoriety goes to just the giving back. So I say that to you as you try to eradicate polio, as you continue to raise money and invest in. People are watching, people do notice, and even when you think you're not having that great of an impact, God may just show us years and years later of what that investment has meant. So keep on doing what you do. Keep on doing what you do. My greatest experience. Okay. Politics. I had a great pleasure of working for the governor, this great governor of our state. Known the Haslam family for a long, long time, and they've been very good to Leroy Thompson and the different charities that I've worked in or for, and allow them to go back and give through the giving of others. However, it's an interesting thing about this exposure and experience, whether it's race, whether it's Democratic versus Republican, whether it's black versus white or Hispanic, whether it's politics, what I'm finding, you learn something new all the time. And I've had the great pleasure to see a lot of different things. I said it before, how many athletes have had the privilege of being coached by Joe Paterno and Bill Parcells? How many people have the opportunity from going from being dirt poor and have the opportunity to become a millionaire? You know, I've had that opportunity. I'm still not there now. Real estate developer in 2007 took care of that. The Great Depression hit. Y'all, any bankers in here? 2007, 2008? Any real estate guys? Frozen real estate? Any car industry folks? So the stock market guys. So you know what I'm talking about, 2007, 2007. So if you ever see somebody say, hey man, that Leroy Thompson, what happened to his money? Just say 207. But I had a great privilege of seeing a lot of different things in that exposure and experience. And one of the things that's interesting about, I learned about politics is just that, and some of you are politicons, and I never wanted to be one. I always walked alongside. I was always in the thrust of politics, but I wasn't a politician. So this appointment to be the regional director for the state's Economic Community Development Department was my first thrust into being one. And I got a bird's eye view of things that I questioned or didn't know. And what I learned, and some of you knew this, I didn't learn. I said I was 46. I just learned this 3 years ago. Politics is a working live organism in itself. It's a culture of its own. It's a live organism of itself. And the great ones, the great ones have the understanding of there's some things in there that you're not going to like. And there's some things in there that is powerful. But you have to deal with both of those aspects. The aspect that I may lose a battle in order to win the war. the aspect that there may be some folks in there I just don't like and want to deal with. But in order for me to get to winning the war and overcoming that, I'm going to have to do it. There might be some things that I may have to go along with that I just don't want to do. And for me, being an emotional, passionate, kind of upfront guy, you know, one of the things that why I haven't, people come, why didn't you run? Why don't you run for this? Why don't you run for that? Because I was afraid of getting kicked out of all the meetings. I mean, it's just that, okay, afraid of because I wasn't political savvy. You know, I want to shoot it to you straight. I thought if you tell me what you mean what you say. Let's get to it. And I forgot all of these different things you're trying to accomplish. So that part of it was interesting for me because I got to see how the structure work and all of those things that go into it. But the patience in learning that the process is just as important as the result was interesting for me. So if I'm trying to work on a project and this is how you can solve this project, going from right here to right here. And you see it as clear as day. You got the plan, you worked it out, it's done, you're ready to go do it. I can solve that. I can solve that tax issue. I can solve that complication of that red tape. I can solve that healthcare. I can solve it. It's not politics. Here's politics.
Are you a politician?
Trying to politics. To get it solved. To get it solved. However, the good ones, the patient ones, the ones that stay dedicated, the ones that can overcome it, the ones that can see through, the ones that can have the stability to do that and still be able to stay focused and get it done, they become good. And a lot of times you say, well, it's the money and it's these different things, but that's why usually a lot of when you got money and power out of the way, you make great politicians because you're not influenced by. And the ones who mean well, and the great people, the great teachers, the great would-be politicians, because they can't survive that part of it, don't go into it anymore. Don't teach anymore. Don't go into politics anymore because of that circumstance. So we got to figure that one out. Because if we still want our teachers to teach, we still want great people who want to serve for the service and not for their egos and all of those particular things. We got to figure out how we can support those kind of folks to ensure that we continue to get them involved so that they can have that same kind of feeling and spirit. That's my little tidbit on that. Right now, I'm going to open it up for any question that may be on your mind before I take my seat. Yes, sir.
Well, probably not a good question, one you may not want to answer, but do you think Joe Paterno was treated fairly as a result of all that hubbub 2 years ago?
Oh, no. I'll answer that question. That's when I was the first one to get that call and that went down. I've gotten a lot of arguments on this. Was he treated fairly? I would say no, he wasn't treated fairly, but I do understand why at that particular time, with that kind of passion and sensitivity to the victims who wasn't getting the attention, and because of the great school, the great Joe Paterno, those kind of things, when people were more sensitive to, we're talking football, we're talking Paterno, and it's the victims, the kids, and those parents who deserve to be getting the attention. So I understand because of I mean, just think about what we look at on the news today. All these beautiful stories of impact. That's not what we search for. We search for, I was with my barber this morning. He's like, you don't read the news a whole lot. I've always got to tell you the news. I said, no, you always got to tell me the negative news. You're telling me who got killed. You're telling me how many war. You're telling me, I don't hear that every morning when I wake up. But ask me about economic development. Ask me about kids. Ask me about community. Ask me about something else besides that, and I can tell you about it. So we are drawn to the negativity. So now what you're seeing is Penn State is off probation. All the wins were restored, and you'll continue to see his name be restored as we get a little bit away from such a sensitive topic. So at that time, did the statue had to come down? Probably so. I mean, because the attention would have been going on. Why do we still have a statue up when you got hundreds of kids that have been abused? That's where the attention needed to go. Yes, sir.
Two questions. When you played for Bill Parcells, which team was it?
New England Patriots. I played Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots, Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Bucks.
And my perception of Parcells is, I wonder if it's your opinion, I think if he wasn't in football, he would have been a good businessman. He seemed to have that.
Absolutely, because he played all the psychological head games, so he'd been outstanding. He thinks he's a mad scientist. I mean, yes, he would be. He's got a great poker face too, as well.
One more question.
Yes.
I saw Bill Cowher play in college, so I know how intense he was. Was he the most intense coach you?
My favorite coach, Bill Cowher, but
He's one of my favorites.
yeah, until this moment. Okay. Coach, I'm here in training rooms. Never forget this, training camp. You know, just let him in rushing. I told you the stories. 3 years, let him in rushing all those days. I'm here in training rooms. You know, and he looked at me 6 o'clock in the morning. No, this was 8 o'clock at night. As long as I'm coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're my guy. I'll go to war with you anytime. There is no trade. You're my guy. 6:30 the next morning. There's been a trade. Great guy, players coach, outstanding guy, but that's the only lie he ever told me.
Thank you. We've got a guest speaker token, paperweight to give to you for speaking today, and also if you would please sign our book, we donate on your behalf to Pond Gap Elementary.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excellent program. I see you still got some of those moves too, politicians around the room. Gary's going to update us on Family of Rotary.
Okay, first thing I'd like to do is welcome Gene Russell back. We missed you dearly. It's great to see you here. Started putting this together last night and started out that the slow news week for our club. But in today's paper, there was an item in there and it referred to the health scares ball at James White Park. And as you know, Janice Mitchell was highly involved in that. And I have it on good authority that her outfit that she wore was so scary, and her picture's not in here, by the way. Her outfit was so scary that when the photographer tried to take a picture of it, he was shaking so much that all the pictures came out blurry. Okay, we're going to, because we don't have a lot on our club, we're going to look at our extended family of Rotary members. Bert Rosen used to be a member of this club at one time, and he's the head of the Knox Area Rescue Ministries. And as you know, they do a lot with the homeless, and he's deeply involved. He continually needs donations for food that they feed the homeless, and you'll see that on TV and whatnot. But the thing that was in the paper is now the weather is changing, and now they have a need for coats. So if anybody has anything they want to donate or knows anybody that has something, help Bert out. And another item that we had was Jim Haslam. He's the founder of Pilot. He's a member of the Downtown Rotary Club. And on last night's news, you saw where he donated $15 million to the Lakeshore Park. That's the park right over here off of North Shore. And that's is part of the $50 million that they need to complete this park. And what they're saying about it is the park is being designed, because there's so many great features to it, it's designed to be to Knoxville what Central Park is to New York City. And this is truly service above self. And that's what we have in Rotary News.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a pretty generous gift. That'll be awesome to get that park. Wayne is going to, we've got some special Paul Harris awards today.
We've been actually trying to do this for 6 weeks, I think. But the fact that November is Foundation Month makes this much more appropriate for some presentations for Paul Harris Fellows. So, and I'll do this as quickly as I can. I think that all the members know about the naming. Paul Harris, founder for Rotary. In 1957, this award fellowship was started with a $1,000 contribution. And that's what it cost in 1957. That's what it costs today in 2015. And I think if Gary Eastman in the back said that's about $9,000 in 1957 dollars. So you know, it's a pretty big deal, and maybe more of a big deal maybe outside of the United States. But you know, the foundation is really what Rotary is about. I mean, that's how we do so much. The gifts that our members make and that are made throughout the world make the foundation, you know, the leading nonprofit foundation in the country. More of their dollars raised go back into those projects, and we also see that the contributions with the eradication of polio and the Bill Gates Foundation. Just in the last 3 months, our club has raised our dollars, $965 for polio eradication, and with the Bill Gates match, that $965 became $2,895, and I think that's a great thing. So today, we're going to recognize some folks who have. We don't have any new fellows this time, but we've got some that are getting close. We've got some folks that have their Paul Harris plus one, and if they'll come up here, as I call their name, Ted Hopes has a Paul Harris plus one. Is John Turner here? John's here. There you go, sir. Congratulations. Thank you for your contribution. As you know, these are $1,000 deals, so the plus one is at least $2,000. And we appreciate everyone's contribution. John, congratulations. As we move up the chain, so Jimmy Katsianis, is Jimmy here? Dr. Jim? He left? All right. Well, good. I also have a Paul Harris plus one, so I'll congratulate myself later. Is Roy Diadiker here? Roy. Roy made a special donation this year to the foundation for cleft palate surgery. That's something that he got to actually meet the doctor. Was that in Mexico? Roy actually performed those surgeries, and so Roy is now a Paul Harris plus 3. Thank you, Roy. I think I saw him come in late. Todd Wolf. Is Todd here? Todd is a Paul Harris plus 4. So a contribution of over $5,000. Thank you, Todd. Roger Moore. Is Roger here? He may never get it. I've had his the longest, but he always leaves a little early. Turner Howard is a Paul Harris Fellow +6. Now, very quickly, I'm also going to, and if, hopefully Patty won't get mad at me. But, no, find my notes. I can't find my notes. Well, can't find my notes. We have a special, I'm sorry, I apologize because I thought I had everything with me, and I do. Here it is. Just have to look. This has already been presented to Tom and Patty, but I thought that it's something our club needed to know what they've done, and I think it's important. And this award is presented on behalf of the trustees of the Rotary Foundation. And this award is to express appreciation to a couple who's made a substantial contribution towards the goal of international understanding and peace. In doing so, they support the honor and humanitarian and educational programs of the Rotary Foundation that make a difference in the lives of others. It gives me great pleasure this will be the second announcement for Patty and Tom Daughtry that they have made contributions to the program of the Rotary Foundation that qualify them as a major donor level 2. Tom and Patty.
Let's get a shot of you three guys together, and then we'll do. Ready to get on over. And then Wayne, you get to get in this group, so we can congratulate you in the newsletter. Come on, Patty, big smile. Yeah, one more. All right. Tom, keep your eyes open. Good. Thank you very much. Ready, Wayne, jump in here. Let's get a group shot with all you, all the plus members. Won't y'all get? There you go. Not as bad as the purple pinky day, but it's pretty close. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you, gentlemen. All right.
Thank you, Wayne.
I do have a list. It was actually printed out last week. I do have a list if someone wants to see what their contribution level is and see how close they are to the next level. I can provide you with that. So, thank you.
Wayne, thank you, buddy. I think we should give Wade a round of applause. He has really been a tremendous foundation supporter and led our club in our foundation giving in the last 3 years. So, Wayne, thanks very much. Okay, Brad, do you have anything to update us on the dictionaries?
Just as you complete your deliveries, just email Adam Starkey and let him know that they've been done.
Okay, I see a card up here. Is that?
That's from AR Locks this week.
Oh, good. Well, how neat is that?
So take a look on your way out.
Yeah, if we would, and sometimes we wonder what kind of impact. We heard Leroy talk a while ago about some of the impact he's made, and we wonder, are we making an impact? And that may be a good example of what a difference we're making with these dictionaries as we give them out. Thank you for that. Are there any other announcements? Yeah, Gary.
I just want to thank everybody. This list for bell ringing went around the room one time, and it was just full.
Full.
Thank everyone very much.
Great. Everybody wants to ring that little bell. And raise a lot of money for the Foundation Army. So thank you, Gary.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Tom.
Yes,
you know,
Drew.
about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I won the Rotary Trivia question, and I was so proud because that little badge you gave me is a great ball marker when you're on the green. It's very handsome.
It
It's
is.
bold and blue, and you can see it from 30 yards away. It's really
Yeah,
good.
I love it, and it may interfere with the line of your opponent.
Absolutely.
What a way to meet the 4-way test. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying that. I'd love to get out on a golf course and try one out myself. Well, let's get to our tickets. We have tickets to give away at our UT trivia questions today.
What game is it?
Well, we got this game coming up is North Texas. Well, you kind of stole my quiz there. Well,
We won't remember anyway, Tom asked
we can repeat them 2 or 3 times, and the only one remembers is Phil Parkey. So, UT trivia, I'll get to this one first. Steve Spurrier, he's not coaching against us this year, but he has coached against the University of Tennessee 21 times. How many of those games, and it includes Duke and Florida, of course, and South Carolina, how many of those has Tennessee won?
None.
Now that's mean. Richard?
15?
No. Tennessee won.
4?
No.
3.
No. A little more.
8.
8's it. That's the way to go. Well done, Wayne. And for our second mystery quiz question for UT today, it's next week's opponent is North Texas. What is their nickname?
Me too. You gotta raise your hand.
Who needs tickets? We've got 2 tickets. Who needs tickets? It is Mean Green. Gary, you got him. All right. Good deal. Next time I'll do a little bit of research. Maybe have 1 or 2 in my pocket. Okay, we'll get on with our 4-way trivia contest. And in 1929, the foundation made its first gift. Now the name has changed to who they gave it to, but and that's what I'm looking for is their new name. Who did they give that gift of $500 to in 1929? Now try to make it easy. Gave it the year.
They gave it to somebody in Chicago, didn't they?
I don't know where they gave it. Turner.
I'm gonna steal your wonderful wife's gift. March of Dimes.
Well, it's Easter seal, so that's the.
Give it to her.
All right. She's got a sack full of them at home.
I've already got one of those.
Well, okay. I'll tell you, I'm not doing too good on trivia today.
Get a little more current.
I need to get current, don't I? All right, well, I apologize for that. Turner, you're going to have to get it anyway. Maybe you'll give it to a good friend.
I will.
And
I'm not a golfer, no.
Or a recruit. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and let's go out like Leroy and be a gift to the world. And Clarence, thank you for the program today, and Phil, and it was an excellent program. And with that, who's got Peyton? Lead us out with 4-10.
It is true. Is there all concerned?